Hey there, this is Captain Christopher German coming to you for the Coin Republic. We are talking today with a very talented individual from Australia, Mark van Rijmenam, and I'm gonna butcher his name the entire time, but this guy is the coolest guy ever. He is the digital speaker. He is all about the economics of the cryptocurrency world, the idea of the metaverse. Have you heard about the metaverse? The metaverse is this amazing thing that's going on right now. It's all virtual reality. It's one of the coolest things that's going on. That's why I've decided to join this podcast, and that's why we're going to be going out every week talking about all the things that are cryptocurrency related. Now, let me tell you a little bit more about this book that we're talking about today. It's called Step into the Metaverse: How the Immersive Internet Will Unlock a $1 trillion social economy. In the metaverse, you can be who you want to be, where you want to be, and companies and consumers are only restricted by their own creativity, how they can benefit from the immersive internet. With engaging commentary on issues ranging from avatars, identity, and digital fashion to non-fungible tokens, NFTs, blockchain, and the economics of the metaverse, this book is the book that you need to read. Now, without further ado, let me hear in his own words, Mark, tell us about your book, The Step into the Metaverse. What is going on? We're talking all metaverse today. Start off, tell us about this book, if you would, please.
Thank you very much, Christopher. It's great to be on the show, and I'm happy to talk about the metaverse because it is the coolest kid in town at the moment. And literally everyone is talking about what the metaverse is, and the metaverse is coming online in the next, I would say, 1 to 2 decades, but it's happening today already. And yes, I've written a book called Step into the Metaverse, as you mentioned correctly, and this book is all about how we can create an open metaverse, how we can create a metaverse that's there for us, where we control our assets, where we control our identity, where we control our data, and where it's actually beneficial to society. And in the book, I cover what it is, what it can be, what it does to, as you said correctly, to identity, to being human.
Let's first start talking about, if we could we start talking about some of your other books that you've made, because you've created several volumes in dealing with the organization of tomorrow, blockchain technology, thinking bigger. You're the digital speaker, and you have done a massive amount of work in inspiring people to get into the metaverse. Talk to me a little bit about that, if you would, please.
Sure. So I have been in the space of emerging technologies for over a decade now. I call myself a future tech strategist. So I think about how emerging technologies are changing organizations, changing society, but also changing the metaverse nowadays. And my first book, Think Bigger, was published in 2014. And basically since then, I've been doing keynotes around the globe, helping organizations understand at that time what big data was. A couple of years ago, I did my PhD at the University of Technology in Sydney here in Australia. And while doing my PhD, I wrote my second book called Blockchain, about how we can use blockchain for social good. Because at that time, it was the time of the ICO hypes and scams, I have to unfortunately say. And our idea, I wrote it together with Dr. Philip Ryan, was how can we show that blockchain can be used also for social good. And this is a foundational technology that really can have an impact on society. So my third book, The Organization of Tomorrow, is basically a management book of my dissertation, because who reads dissertations? They're boring. So I thought I'll make it a bit more easy to read book, which was published in 2019. And then, of course, the pandemic hit. So obviously, unfortunately, I was not able to fly anymore to do my work. So I had to reinvent myself. And having talked about digitalization for over a decade, I thought, why don't I digitalize myself? So I did that. I created a digital speaker. I created an avatar of myself. I created a hologram of myself, and I started doing keynotes and conversations like that. I have my avatar has his own show, Tech Journal, where my avatar covers the digital world from inside the digital world. And yeah, that's how I sort of stepped into the metaverse, basically before everyone else, or let's say before the metaverse really became a hype, when Mr. Zuckerberg announced Meta, obviously in October. And it's been exciting. And since in October, I was asked to write the book on the metaverse, and I took a deep dive. I interviewed about 100 people, stakeholders who are building the metaverse: investors, creators, collectors, artists, you name it. I did another survey to about 150 people to really get a very broad perspective of what's happening and what is the metaverse and where is it going and how can we create a metaverse that's beneficial to all of us. The rest is, the book is finished a couple of weeks ago, ready for publication. It will become available also in Mandarin, in Korean, hopefully a few other languages. I'm very excited about that.
That is awesome. But while I got you here, since you seem to have nailed this topic in terms of being your expertise on the matter, Tell me, what is the metaverse? Can you define the metaverse for people that they're like, okay, well, it's got Facebook on it some here, and what is the metaverse to you?
Yeah, well, that's a very good question. And the interesting thing, I mentioned I've spoken to roughly about 250 people, and I got 250 different definitions of what the metaverse is, which basically shows you how an abstract concept this is. And I used all those definitions that I received to sort of craft my own definition. And for me, what it basically means, the shortest version is, it's a convergence of the physical and the digital world, where we bring the digital world into the physical and we bring the physical world into the digital world. And what for me is very important, that the metaverse is so much more than virtual reality. Now, often people think that the metaverse equals virtual reality because that's how it's portrayed in Snow Crash and that's how it's portrayed in Ready Player One. I think virtual reality is only one channel of the metaverse, and I think augmented reality is going to be a much bigger component of the metaverse in the years to come. But I think it's important is that the metaverse lives there where the physical and the digital world are converging. And once that happens, you get all kinds of new and cool opportunities. You get the opportunity to create a virtual world that allows you to have an immersive experience that we are familiar with virtual reality, or with meetings in virtual reality. But it also allows you to bring in that virtual world the physical world, for example, using digital twins, which are exact replicas of the physical world. And when you can then interact with the physical world in virtual reality. Obviously, we also have augmented reality, where we bring the digital world into the physical world, where we add layers to reality, and then that gives us a totally different perspective of what reality is. And I think that's sort of what the metaverse is. But we're really early stage. I'd say it's like the end of the 1990s compared to where we are with this next iteration of the internet. And you also hear a lot of people say that the metaverse equals Web3. And while I wish that would be true, I don't think that is true at the moment. It doesn't have to become true in the future, but it's certainly something that we should strive for. But from that perspective, the way I look at it is, what I also write in the book is, we should focus on sort of achieving this hybrid web, where we use centralized technologies for the streaming and do what centralized technologies can do well, and use decentralized technologies such as blockchain to make sure that we own our own assets, that we own our own identity, that we own our own data, that we have interoperability, and that we have transferability of assets. And I think that's very, very crucial. So a long story, the metaverse is upon us. We are at the dawn of the metaverse. There's still tons of work to be done, but it's certainly going to be a wild ride.
And this is going to be something of our creation, is it not? It is truly a democratic bastion that we're coming into right now. And that's where you've really positioned yourself in the market right now, is you're helping businesses really concept the idea of integrating their businesses in the physical world into the metaverse world, are you not?
Well, to a certain extent, yes. But before we go there, I first want to stress that there is absolutely no guarantee that this is going to be a democratized version of the internet. It's very well possible that we continue, that we will build the metaverse, basically a follow-up of Web 2, where it's owned and controlled by several companies who become billionaires, if not trillionaires, and they own our data, they own our assets, and they own our identity. There's absolutely no guarantee that we build an open metaverse. But we should do whatever it takes to make sure that we will end up there. Because for me, the metaverse is, as I write in my book, it's a multi-trillion-dollar opportunity in the next decade. It's an endless blue ocean of opportunity. But if we don't do it correctly, that endless blue ocean of opportunity will end up in the hands of the few. While I think we should put it in the hands of the creatives and the creators. And so, my main focus is on how to build an open metaverse that's there for us and not for a big tech.
Would you count that to be one of the dangers of the metaverse? Is that this is going to be a closed off world that is just created by a few big players? Would that be one of the big dangers? And what other dangers are there?
That's definitely one of the dangers, and if that happens the case, we'll end up in a Snow Crash world, or in an oasis, but then probably far worse. And I think that's we should know that in the metaverse we will if you think that today's internet we collect big tech collects a lot of data, that will be nothing compared to what they can collect in the metaverse. It will be 10 or 100 times what they can collect today. And today, we have already toxic recommendation engines. We have polarization. Where you have deep fakes, we have misinformation. In an immersive internet, all those threats will only extrapolate, will only get worse. And we see that's already happening. There's already abuse. There's already sexual harassment. We have to be really think carefully of how we're going to construct the metaverse if we want to make sure that this metaverse has a positive effect on our society.
Well, and that's I think part of the purpose of this podcast, as well as your work, is that by education, getting people engaged in this idea of this concept, giving them the power to take part in it, we have a way of creating a more democratized metaverse, so to speak. But also at the same time, it's a chance to also, I think, limit the larger players from taking over, because they're the ones that are creating the vision, right?
Well, that's what everyone talks about Meta, obviously, and Zuckerberg did one thing right, and that is kickstarting the movement of the metaverse. Everyone is aware of the metaverse. All organizations want to know what is the metaverse. And the amount of requests that I get from organizations like "Help Me" is is a lot, and which is good. People are becoming aware of this, and hopefully the result is that just like we sleepwalked into Web 2, we are not going to sleepwalk into the metaverse, because if we are sleepwalking into the metaverse, we'll make the same mistakes as we did in Web 2, and we'll get addicted to free services, and we'll get our data is being pulled and sold and shared and analyzed and abused and misused by big tech. We really should we have this beautiful opportunity where we sort of have a blank canvas where we can create the metaverse basically from scratch with the beautiful technologies that are out there, that are being built by the community. But let's think carefully of how we're going to build this, and let's not sleepwalk into a surveillance metaverse, because that would be certainly a dystopian.
Well, then it's funny you bring that up. Is one of the major complaints, I think, and that's one of the reasons why cryptocurrency is coming about so well right now, is because it is a way for people to truly engage in the world economy without having the regulations of big business or Big Brother watching them. And that's just a small portion of the metaverse. It's going to be a larger picture completely. I was reading the other day, they're saying, think about it, the metaverse is, you're not going to a computer to log into a computer, you're going to be stepping into that computerized world, and it's going to be a completely immersive experience. It scares me to think that we could have a Facebook type organization that's controlling all of that experience.
Yeah, no, for sure. That's very, very scary. And the metaverse or the internet will become so pervasive. It will be like the air we breathe and the energy we use. It's there to interact with, and if all that data is being collected by one or several companies who misuse and abuse that data, I think that's truly scary. We should really do whatever it takes to not have that happen. But that requires a responsibility for all of us, on those building it, but also those consuming it and those using it, to do the right thing. Because if we do build it in the correct way, then we will have a fantastic era with magic will happen on every corner of the street, where everything will be really truly an immersive and amazing experience that will benefit humanity. So yeah, the metaverse can be something absolutely truly amazing, or it can be something truly dystopian, and I hope we'll get the first.
Well, we all have the images of a dystopian metaverse. I think that came out with Matrix. We saw, it can be twisted and all kinds of experiences. Sci-fi is really doing an amazing job at imagining what it can be. But I think it's people like you that are ambassadors for the metaverse. You're really educating folks about the idea with your podcasts, the digital speaker series, Between Two Bots. You're doing a lot of work to try and bring those people into that, and by doing that, you're going to create some authors for it, which will hopefully keep it more democratized.
Well, I hope so, because in the end, technology is neutral, and it is how we use the technology, what the effect of that technology will be. And I think I have a deep understanding of what this technology is and how it can impact organization, society, or you and me. And I try to share that knowledge with as many people as possible, so that hopefully we can all benefit from it.
Well, that also, if we could go into this a little bit more, is the metaverse. Is talk to me about how NFTs and cryptocurrency and virtual reality, how this all is part of the metaverse. If you can imagine for a day, if you will, what it would look like for one day living in the metaverse.
Yeah, well, if you read my book, you will have a nice surprise at the start of the book, how the metaverse will look like. I'm not going to say too much because it needs to be a surprise when you open the book, but it would be quite interesting.
Well, don't give away any stingers in this.
I won't.
We want to be surprised.
I won't. But having said that, I think cryptocurrencies are what will make the metaverse go round. And they will be absolutely crucial. And NFTs will be sort of will play a fundamental role in the metaverse, because for the first time, NFTs enable us to truly own a digital asset. And just like in the real physical world, the moment you can prove ownership of a asset, you can start to monetize that asset. So if you can prove the ownership of your house, you can then start to put it out as a collateral. You can get a mortgage against it. You can get money. You can grow. You can invest it. And the same applies to NFTs. For the first time, we can prove that we own a particular digital asset, and we can then use that to monetize it. NFTs, all the hype about NFTs, about JPEG selling for millions. That's nice. It's a gold rush, but that's not what NFTs enable. That's not what NFTs stand for. NFTs stand for that you can own, you can earn, you can win, you can collect, you can get, you can whatever, a particular asset in a particular world, and then you can start using that hopefully in other worlds, using the interoperability that's so important for the metaverse. And once you have that, so let's say you are you're an artist, and you create these amazing digital images or digital paintings, I'd say. If you're a really good artist, you can start to sell those paintings as NFTs, and you can start to make money. And then you can also keep those NFTs and borrow against it. You can use them as collateral, so you can get more money, and then you can produce more work, which you then can sell, and you get a sort of a vicious upward circle where you can use the technologies of decentralized finance to increase your output, to increase your the way of living, to make more money, basically. And I think that's truly that's very democratizing, that all of a sudden anyone, without having to rely on intermediaries, you can be responsible for your own life, and you can make a living, you can monetize that, you can use it in ways that have never been possible. So I think from that perspective, the metaverse the cryptocurrencies and NFTs are a true enabler for infinite amount of money, additional GDP for global GDP. I think to have a big impact on our global economy. And so that's where the power for me lies in NFTs, being able to own a particular asset which comes with certain utility, whatever the utility is, but then you can prove that ownership of that. And I think that's absolutely an amazing invention that we have been able to get that from the Web3 community, and that we now can use that to completely change how our society runs.
Well, it seems to me that we also have to start touching base on with the philosophers of this world to really try and understand what we're talking about, because one of the most real examples of the metaverse kicking up into society right now is Russia's abilities to be able to transfer over to a cryptocurrency to avoid sanctions. Can you talk to me a little bit about, that's part of the danger side of this thing. Can you talk to me a little bit about that?
Well, yes, that is part of the dangers, and if you have cryptocurrencies that are completely decentralized, it means that no centralized entity can have control over it. That's the whole idea of decentralization, which a lot of countries don't like. That's why you also see a lot of centralized cryptocurrencies, central bank cryptocurrencies being developed, with China definitely leading the pack here, because that gives you the benefits of cryptocurrencies from a government perspective, but doesn't give you the downsides of cryptocurrencies from a government perspective. And I think that is a challenge. If you want to impose sanctions on a particular country, Bitcoin or other cryptocurrencies, countries can use those to evade those sanctions. That's a challenge. But I think I sort of almost think that every technology has its pros and its cons. Fiat currencies also have a lot of cons to it. Where's the balance? It's a very philosophical debate, and I don't have the right answer for what is right, what is wrong here. I just look at these technologies of what they are capable. I see that a Bitcoin can indeed be used by Russians to evade the sanctions. But then again, at the same time, we all think that cryptocurrencies are completely anonymous, and that's also not the case. Only recently, I've got the names of the two criminals who stole for 4.5 billion, I think it was 120,000 Bitcoin in 2016. Eventually, 5 years later, they've been caught, despite them using as many tools to remain anonymous. So from that perspective, how anonymous is Bitcoin? So maybe there are other ways to go around it. But it's a very philosophical debate, and I don't want to go into directions that are not that are difficult to see where they are going. But it's I guess that's it's the pros and cons of technology.
Truly it is. But that's one of the things I think that you're doing to try and inspire people. You put an email out every couple of days, and you have a function in there, the exponential function. Talk to me a little bit about that, and what are you trying to do to inspire people with the exponential function?
Yeah, so my newsletter is called fx equals e to the power x. Which is the exponential function. And because I talk about emerging technologies, I always tell people, we live in exponential times. The world is changing faster than ever before, and we've only just, we're only coming out of the hockey of the bottom of the hockey stick at the moment. And the world is going to change so rapidly in the next decade. And that's why I chose the exponential function for my newsletter. It's a bit nerdy, but I thought it was quite funny. What I try to do is help people, organizations, but also governments, try to understand, what does it mean, these exponential technologies? What does it mean that the world is, we see this convergence of technology at the moment, and that's why it's going so fast. In itself, for example, artificial intelligence is having a major impact. But combine artificial intelligence with the enormous data that's being collected, combine it with quantum computing that's coming our ways, and all of a sudden, this convergence of these three technologies will create an explosion of what's possible with technology, and that's something humans, we are not made for exponential thinking, and we are very lateral thinking. We think it is going to be a continuation of what has happened in the past. But if you know the story of the chessboard, the second half of the chessboard, we know that it's very difficult to imagine to think exponentially, and how long it actually takes to what happens if you double every step. And that's what happens with exponentiality. So, and I'm trying to help people understand what happens with exponentiality.
Well, and I think that's I think the big takeaway with all of this is if we all need to perhaps think outside of ourselves and think of the larger picture, and think of, and it's going to be fascinating to see who comes down the pike with these amazing ideas that are going to use the metaverse in new and different ways, the economies that are going to develop out of this. It's almost like we could be a superhero. I mean, you could do amazing things. If you were going to be a superhero in the metaverse, what would be your special little talent?
I have no idea. Especially because everything, nearly everything can be possible in the metaverse. Especially in the metaverse, because we don't have the laws of physics, obviously. So anything can be possible. I have no idea what kind of superpower or super character I would be, but I certainly, I think, will enjoy the metaverse if we build it correctly, and to enjoy the amazing content and the amazing creativity that we can expect. I think we can almost expect this Cambrian explosion of creativity, this Cambrian explosion of identity, which I am super excited about, because it will change what it means to be human, and that big an impact will the metaverse have. It will change what it means to be human, I'm very much excited about that.
Well, I think that's where we'll leave it, because we're changing the minds of people. We're changing what it means to be human. And that is absolutely one of the most exciting things about this whole subject matter. Hey, Mark, thank you so much for joining us today. And I can't wait till that book comes out, May 22. What's the name of that book again?
The name of the book is Step into the Metaverse. The Kindle available May 20th and paperback available June 8th.
And they can get onto your emails if they join your LinkedIn profile. They can obviously find your podcasts online. All of your books are available on Amazon. You're all over the place, sir. So keep doing what you're doing, and let's bring this digital technology to the masses, shall we not?
That sounds like an excellent idea. And if one of people want to find me, the easiest way is to go to thedigitalspeaker.com. It's a lot easier than my difficult last name. And it's been an absolute pleasure to be on your show, Christopher. Thank you.
Mark, thank you so much. And thank you for watching today. The Coin Republic is going to come to you every week. We're talking about all things NFTs, cryptocurrencies, the metaverse. It's all coming together on this podcast. Thank you for joining us today. And make sure you join us every week and smash that subscribe button so that you get notified when we come live every week. Thanks for watching.